All right. In this video segment, we're going to continue on with Chapter 9, looking at the second PowerPoint slide. Let's get started on that. We left off last time talking about the relationship between IQ and criminal behavior. This next point tells us that academic performance is actually a better predictor of delinquency than just merely IQ. And this suggests that other traits like conscientiousness, that help make someone a good student also reduce criminal involvement. So yeah, the ability to do well in school draws on more than one strength. IQ certainly helps in that IQ is something like the ability to learn difficult things quickly, be able to pick up on things without too much difficulty, especially in an academic setting. But that's not the only trait that helps one do well in school. Also, if this term conscientiousness, which will come up again here in a couple of minutes, is referring to someone's level of self-discipline. That school can be very structured, especially for kids, and boring and not fun. And so you have to be someone who's self-disciplined, who can be able to set aside things that might be more fun now, to do the hard things that can have long-term payoffs. So that's in academic performance, your grades are going to be a reflection of sort of your discipline and ability to follow along and get done what needs to be done, as well as your ability to sort of learn quickly. So academic performance is very much a standard predictor of delinquent behavior. Poor academic performance, we talked about that early in the courses, is having probably a moderate, pretty decent connection to criminal behavior. Now, another term that comes up along with personality is temperament. And by temperament, they mean this is sort of it's really personality traits, but more of a focus on children as opposed to adults. And I have this term here of constitutionally based individual differences in reactivity and self-regulation that are seen in children. So a lot of words there. Constitutionally based means that, again, the researchers in this area tend to see these traits as being very much embedded in the brain. That this is you behave certain ways because of how your brain functions and brain wiring, and that's different from one kid to the next. So constitutionally kind of means biologically based. In these two terms, reactivity and self-regulation. Reactivity is that some children are kind of high strung and can get easily upset to little difficulties or frustrations or things that come up. Other kids can handle stuff calmly and things don't affect them too much, but someone who's highly reactive is kind of a high-strung, highly emotional child. And self-regulation is, again, related to that conscientiousness, that self-discipline. That if you're someone who's got control over your behavior, maybe you're feeling some anger, you're feeling some frustration, but you're able to control yourself, to handle yourself, to restrain yourself when you have some temptation to act in a way that's incorrect. That's someone who has high level of self-regulation, and you can see differences in children. Some children more controlled over themselves than other people. And see, these are differences that emerge early, according to this temperament research, and since they're rooted in biology, they emerge early, and you see differences among children at an early age. Whereas if you looked at self-control theory that we talked about before, those differences emerge as parents are failing to monitor and correct the child's behavior. So as the years go by, it's going to be more clear. It's going to be clearer and clearer in self-control theory which parents are doing a good job and which ones aren't. But from a temperament perspective, these differences emerge early, and they're more sort of rooted in biology and don't have as much to do with parenting styles, that kind of thing. So there's a difference. This is a different kind of approach than what you would see from something like self-control theory. Now, uh, in the study of personality, probably the most popular um, system. There's different ways that they divide up. Okay, what are the important personality traits that make up a person? And you have different researchers who will take different approaches and kind of slice up personality differently. But I think the one that is most popular, at least in the academic world, there's a couple of them, but this big five personality traits is very popular. So I want to stress that one. Just realize there's other ways of other systems out there, but this one I'll just focus on this one to give you an important example. Now, according to this big five, you've got five what they call super traits that altogether sort of make up who you are, what you're like. And sometimes that'll get abbreviated with this ocean here, this word ocean, which is an acronym that each letter representing one super trait. So let's just walk through these. The first one, O, is for openness to experience. And what they mean by that is that these are always on a continuum from one extreme to the other, and you as an individual will fall somewhere on that continuum. So someone who's highly open to experience, they're always looking for to try new things. Think of somebody who always wants to try a new restaurant, try some sort of exotic food they've never tried before. Maybe somebody who likes to travel the world and experience new cultures and new environments, and they just like, new, always want to try something new. Someone who's on the other side of the continuum, the other extreme, would be someone who is very routine oriented. They know the kind of food they like and they want to eat it all the time. They want to eat the same thing. They have a routine, they have a simple little life where they're doing the same things on a daily basis, and that's what they like. They don't like to try a lot of new things, different things, new experiences. They're satisfied with the sort of regular routine stuff that they've always done. And these folks are also thought of as kind of being more traditional, more old fashioned, sort of, whereas the people highly open to new experiences are always want to, into trends and fashions and the latest thing and always looking for the new. Okay. So that's supposed to be what they call a super trait. There's individual kind of, they call them facets that are more specific underneath openness to experience. One facet might be, oh, you're someone who really likes to learn new things, and say you're a real reader, kind of an intellectual type who's always likes and enjoys learning new information. So that would be an example of a facet underneath this big super trait of openness to experience. And there's other facets that would go along with openness too. Maybe openness to another one might be openness to new meeting new people and making new friends or something like that. So there's different kinds of openness. All of these traits are called super traits because they have various dimensions. They're not simple. There's various dimensions that are a part of them. Moving on to the next one, number 2, C is for conscientiousness. I mentioned that one before. Basically, you're getting at a person's level of self-control, of being able to control impulses. I'm really tired. I don't want to do this thing I have to get done. I'd rather go sleep, but I'm going to fight that desire to sleep because I've got this project I need to get finished. And so I'm going to be disciplined and I'm just going to, power through and do it. Someone who's really good at that and is just a go-getter, very self-controlled, tends to be very industrious, gets a lot done, very organized sort of person. That's a highly conscientious person. A person on the other extreme, low in conscientiousness, that person's very relaxed. They're not detail oriented. They're just kind of, loose about stuff. Maybe they're kind of disorganized. Maybe they're a little bit messy and not as achievement oriented because they just kind of go with the flow and don't take kind of control of themselves and work really hard toward these big goals it's difficult to do that in the short term, but then you get the long term payoff. The people low in conscientiousness kind of go with the flow and so maybe may accomplish less. So that's conscientiousness. Extroversion, the next one, E, is how outgoing you are. So if you're somebody who really likes people, you like parties, you're very comfortable meeting strangers, you like people, you're kind of a warm people person, well, that person's high on extroversion. A person who would be low on extroversion, the flip side of that coin is introversion or introverted. That's a person who's shy, a person who's not comfortable around people they don't know very well, around strangers, not comfortable at parties with a lot of strangers. This person's more private. They kind of more likely to do activities alone, or maybe with a small group of people or people that they know really well, family, friends, small number of folks that they're comfortable doing things with. But they're not outgoing, not what you think of as being, people. So that's extroversion. Um, Agreeableness, the A in ocean, this is someone who scores high in agreeableness is someone who's really very motivated to get along and cooperate with other people. They don't like conflict. They don't like fighting with other people. They like peace. They like everybody being happy with everybody. And the negative term that sometimes gets used for somebody who scores high in agreeableness is, oh, you're a yes man. You just tell people whatever they want and you just go with the flow kind of thing. I mean, that kind of follow what other people want kind of a thing. Someone who scores low on agreeableness is someone who's disagreeable, someone who likes conflict, someone who's very comfortable, uh, disagreeing with other people, fighting with other people. They may even thrive on conflict with other people. They may enjoy it. And so these are highly disagreeable people. And again, these are all continuums, and probably most of us fall somewhere in the middle, are not too extreme one or the other. But you have most people in the middle, but some people at the extremes, either low or high. And finally, the N in ocean stands for negative emotionality. And what negative emotionality refers to is that if you score high on that, you're someone who's easily upset. You're someone who gets nervous easily, who gets frustrated, who gets angry possibly easily, more of a nervous, worrying person, high strung sort of person. It ties in. It's kind of like the adult version of that reactivity that we were talking about with the temperament, with the kids, that you're kind of high strung thing. Little things get you really upset. Somebody who scores low on negative emotionality, that's someone who is very even keeled, who's very calm. You could have all sorts of bad experiences happen to you and it just rolls off you and you're just cool and calm about the whole thing. You take difficulty very very easily, unemotionally. So again, that's a continuum. Most of us probably toward the middle somewhere. Those are all five super traits that everybody's different on each one of these five traits, and you put the five together, and that kind of makes what your personality is like. And it's different for everybody. So one thing that I find interesting about personality research is it really focuses on individual variety, diversity. It basically, the message from this kind of approach is that everybody's different. It's not that we're all the same or that we're all going to react to the same circumstances the same. No, we're all different on the inside, and so we react to things differently. We're all put together in our own kind of configuration of personality traits, and that makes us all individuals. As opposed to a lot of sociological theories tend to say, well, everybody's the same. The only thing that makes us different is just different circumstances. Well, this perspective, personality perspective, says no, we're different on the inside too, not only in our circumstances, but we're different on how we react to things and our kind of habits, our way of dealing with the world is different from person to person. So that's the five personality traits. Now, how does this is a whole kind of field here, but how does this connect to criminology? What does it have to do with crime? Well, these personality systems have been designed to sort of understand all people generally. They have not been designed to try to focus and explain crime specifically. They're not designed specifically for that. But the research does show that there's two of those traits which are important for crime. The first one, conscientiousness. People who are very self-disciplined, very in control of their urges and impulses and that kind of thing, they're less likely to be, significantly less likely to be involved in crime. This conscientiousness is similar to that self-control idea from self-control theory, that if you can say no to your impulses, and you can think about not just about yourself, but the feelings and the rights of other people. And you can also check yourself and think about the long-term consequences of your behavior. Well, then maybe you won't give in to the temptations of the moment and steal that money or attack that person, even though you're really upset, because you got the ability to check yourself. So conscientiousness definitely is associated with less criminality. Agreeableness is also predicts less criminality. So if you're someone who's highly disagreeable, you love conflict, you love fighting with people, you're comfortable with that, you're kind of a jerk, right? With people, well, you're going to be more likely to have conflicts, and conflicts that could spill over into physical conflicts as well. So being highly disagreeable predicts more crime. So those are the two important ones: super personality, super traits that predict crime. The third one that's a weakly and kind of in a more complicated way correlated with crime is negative emotionality, because it does predict more crime if you're someone who's prone to anger. We remember general strain theory saying that, if you're someone who gets angry, then you may be more likely to, manage that, to handle that anger by acting violently towards people. You may vent and take it out on somebody. That's what general strain theory says. Well, general strain theory also incorporates these personality traits, specifically negative emotionality, and says, hey, if you have a personality prone to anger and prone to really intense negative emotions, that you're going to be more likely to be violent. So, so that general strain theory has kind of incorporated some of this personality research, but the personality research stands alone too, and the negative emotionality does predict crime. It's just not very powerful, because you have the sort of criminal who's very a hothead, but then you also have the sort of criminal who's the cold-blooded psychopath type, who's not emotional, but is kind of cold-blooded and calm when they commit their crimes. Not angry, not full of desire for revenge, but just kind of, calm. So because of that, it complicates that relationship, and so there's not a real strong correlation between negative emotionality and crime. It's actually more on the weak side. Now, the other traits that have been more focused on specifically in the context of crime and violence, you'll see some of these have come up in criminology, and we can definitely stress those here. That I've got a list here of impulsiveness, sensation seeking, callousness, hostility, suspiciousness, low empathy, low altruism. So there's a couple of things going on there. Impulsiveness is sort of like the self-control issue in self-control theory, that if you're someone who has these strong impulses that you are not able to control and get a hold of, well, then you do foolish things. You're more likely to commit crimes because you have this bad, foolish thought that comes to your head and you just jump into it and do it without thinking about it. Some people on the sensation seeking, we'll talk more about that later in the context of some theories, but there's definitely research that shows that some people who crave really intense sensations, they're not satisfied and entertained with just sitting quietly and reading a book, reading a novel or something. They need a really high level of stimulation to not feel bored, to feel satisfied. So they need to jump out of an airplane, or do extreme sports. On the more positive side, that the legal side is do, say, extreme sports, dangerous sorts of things that are really, most of us think is too exciting, but people who have really strong cravings for stimulation, they'll on the positive side, they'll do things like that, extreme sports. If they head in a negative direction, well, they might become criminals, because crimes, if one thing about criminal behavior is it's very stimulated. It's like exciting in a bad way. If you go hold up a bank, that's exciting stuff. That's why we watch it in the movies, because it's exciting. And so that lifestyle is exciting. If people crave that danger, that high risk behavior, then they may turn to crime to satisfy this sort of need. Again, these are all personality traits that can lend themselves to crime. Callousness is somebody who's cold hearted, who doesn't care, has no feeling for other people. And if you're someone who has no humanity about you, no feelings of connection or ability to empathize, um, that sort of person, that's a well established predictor of criminality, is someone who's cold hearted, doesn't care, inhuman kind of robot sort of person. Of course, hostility, we've talked about anger already, and hostility is related to that. People are very hostile and suspicious, assume that other people are up to no good and are out to get them. On the extreme version, kind of paranoid. Other people are out to get them. So in your interactions, you tend to be hostile and you tend to look for, fights with other people and just looking for excuses to engage in violence towards other people. That kind of thing. So definitely hostility, suspiciousness are correlated with crime, especially violence. And then this empathy and low altruism. Altruism meaning that you have no motivation, no interest in helping people, being nice and kind and helpful to other people. Empathy, the same sort of thing, where you're not able to put yourself in the shoes of other people and to see where they're coming from. If you just see other people as sort of, you know, objects for you to exploit and take advantage of, because you don't feel how they're just the same as you. They're human beings just like you. Well, it's going to be easy to exploit them, to victimize them, to take advantage of them, to steal their possessions because you don't feel anything for them, and you don't realize that they are going to feel they're really going to suffer when you victimize them, just like you would suffer if somebody victimized you. So these are all well established, kind of well known. Some of this, of course, ties in with being a psychopath. We'll talk more about that kind of stuff later. This is not a complete list of things like that. But again, if nothing else, what we're doing here is giving you a good flavor of a personality, a trait approach to crime. Because the focus here is not on your circumstances, the focus is on what makes you tick on the inside, how you tend to feel and look at things, and ultimately that is sort of found in the habits that are tied into wiring of the brain and how you just tend to react to things and perceive things and then respond to them in certain, more or less habitual sorts of ways. Anyway, we're out of time now, so we'll stop here and we'll see you guys in the next segment.